just trying to survive and learn to love along the way. By Foreplay on AO3. Episode 35, Chapter 35 of Malls and Panic. Shigaraki leads him to a nearby bench in the middle of a crowd. How can nobody see what he's doing? Izuku should just cry out for help and hope that someone does. Shigaraki speaks up, as if hearing his line of thought. I wouldn't if I were you. I could probably kill almost everyone here before a hero shows up. All I want to do is talk. Izuku highly doubts that's all he wants, but he stays silent. The threat to the crowd was greater for him to risk. What do you want? I want many things, young hero. Most of all, to understand. Why is the hero killer so popular? I was in the limelight until he showed up. That's an interesting comment to make. Weren't they working together? I thought he was part of the league. Shigaraki's hands tightened at the comment, and Izuku has to remember to breathe. That man has nothing to do with us. That damn media just assumed he was. Why do people actually care about him so much more? What has he accomplished that I haven't? Izuku stays silent, unsure if he was supposed to answer. He feels the ghost of a finger on his neck, and he gasps. Well? Oh, so it wasn't a hypothetical question. Well, I think there's one major difference between you two. Stain had a goal, a reason for doing what he did. He was inspired by All Might, just like I was. I don't agree with his methods, but at least I understand that with you, it's as if you don't have a reason for doing all this. It makes no sense. Izuku's words trail off at the end, becoming unsure of himself and his answer. He doesn't expect Shigaraki to laugh of all things, but that's exactly what the man does. It all makes sense now. It all goes back to All Might. The man's hand tightened around his neck at the mention of the hero, cutting off the air supply. Izuku panics, bringing his hands up to his throat to try and pry the other man off of him. I wouldn't do that if I were you. He slaps Izuku's hands away with ease, keeping up the pressure with his other hand. Izuku can't breathe, and people still aren't noticing. He looks around frantically, trying to catch someone's eye, when a voice sounds out in front of them. Hitoshi feels mildly guilty leaving Izuku behind like that, but he needs coffee for the dealing with them all. He's got a feeling that Izuku would not be able to hand the crowd that usually hangs around the coffee shop. And what a crowd it is. He's at least number 15 down the line. Thankfully, it seems like they've got all their experienced workers in today, because Hitoshi reaches the front of the line fairly quickly. He thinks about the boy as he waits for their drinks. They'd held hands the other week. Hitoshi doesn't know how to feel about that. Yeah, he likes Izuku, but could he really feel the same way? Izuku is the one that initiated the contact, so maybe he does? Neither of them had said a word about it since. Hitoshi thinks that they're equally afraid to. He checks his phone, as to make his way back to his friend, drinks in hand. He left them alone for almost 20 minutes. Hitoshi picks up a pace a little, guilt eating away at him. He gets back to where he left Izuku and freezes. He's not there. He looks around frantically for a few minutes before he finds him, sitting on the bench next to a stranger. Izuku looks uncomfortable and scared, so Hitoshi takes a closer look. The man has a hand around his friend's neck. An even closer look at the man's face has Hitoshi stepping back in fear. That's Shigaraki, the man who attacked the class. It was before his time, but Hitoshi had seen enough wanted posters of the man that he could recognize him in his sleep, even without the creepy hand mask. He says a silent apology to Izuku as he ducks around the corner and pulls out his phone. Flicking out his first contact, he answers on the second ring. Eraserhead. Aizawa-sensei, you need to get to the mall. Shinsou, what's going on? He can hear the teacher rummaging around the other end of the call and hopes it's the man leaving his home so he could help. He's here, and he has Izuku. Hitoshi can't help but panic a little. Who's there? Shigaraki. There's a sharp inhale on the other end of the line. Shit. I'm on my way. I need you to call the mall security. I'll contact the police. The dial tone signals the end of the conversation, and Hitoshi frantically does as he's told. Security should know if there are any heroes in the mall and send them to help. If not, they could at least evacuate the rest of the stores. Hitoshi peeks around the corner after a few minutes and pales. Izuku is clearly struggling, clawing at his neck as if he can't breathe. His eyes are darting around, never focusing on anything for more than a few seconds. Hitoshi knows he should wait for the heroes, but he needs to help his friend, so he calmly makes his way over to the pair, neither noticing his approach. Izuku. He tries to keep the tone light, trying not to startle the man so much that he places the last digit on his friend's neck. Izuku looks at him, fearful, breathing ragged and tears in his eyes. He tries to shake his head at him, but it comes out barely noticeable, the grip on his neck halting his movements. Oh, we're just old friends catching up. Isn't that right, Izuku? He opens his mouth to answer, and nothing but a wheeze makes it out. I know who you are. You're Shigaraki, aren't you? Hitoshi knows it's a risk, but if he could get the man to answer him, then he could use his quirk and make him let go of Izuku. The man stands abruptly, dragging Izuku with him. He's opening his mouth to answer, when they're interrupted. Police! Drop the boy! They arrive while Hitoshi wasn't looking. The officers are all aiming their guns at Shigaraki. Izuku pales even further in his grip. Shigaraki flashes him a grin before shoving Izuku to the ground and running off into the crowd. The police chase after him, unwilling to fire into a group of innocent people. Only one officer stays behind, a detective by the look of it. He moves past where Hitoshi stands frozen and kneels down beside Izuku, who has curled into himself. He places a hand on Izuku's shoulder, and he flinches away, breathing getting impossibly shallow, as Hitoshi convinces himself to move closer. Izuku, it's Detective Zikuichi. Do you remember me? Izuku gives him a shaky nod, but doesn't uncurl. I need you to breathe, okay? Your dad's almost here. Izuku shakes his head at that, so Hitoshi steps forward. I might be able to help. If I could get him to respond, then I can use my quirk to calm him down. The detective turns his frown at him and beckons him closer. Hey, Izuku, can you answer something for me? His friend doesn't give any indication that he heard him. Izuku, please. I just want to help. He just shakes his head, holding himself tighter. This is not working. If anything, it's making things worse. There's a sound of running footsteps, and Hitoshi tenses, turning towards the sound. It's Eraserhead, and he's running full speed towards them. He slides to a stop beside them and kneels down to the lever. He's quick to take stock of the situation. He speaks with a slight frown on his face. Hey, Izuku, I need you to calm down for me. Take a few deep breaths, okay? He's never heard his teacher so soft before, and he'd joke about it if they were in any other circumstance. It sounds like Izuku is trying to talk, but Hitoshi can't make a single word out. Judging by the frown on Aizawa-sensei's face, he can. His teacher doesn't hesitate before pulling Izuku into his arms and pressing his head against his chest. Just follow my breathing, okay? The man takes exaggerated breaths, and he could see Izuku trying to follow them. You're doing great, Izuku. Just keep breathing like that. It takes a few minutes, but his friend's breathing eventually returns to normal. Aizawa-sensei doesn't let him go when it does, just keeps holding him tightly. Hitoshi sighs in relief and looks around. It seems like they're the only ones in the area. Maybe the only ones in the mall. Did they evacuate everyone? The only people he sees are a few officers mingling around. Hitoshi opens his mouth to ask the detective when his phone starts ringing. Izuku flinches at the sound, and Hitoshi quickly answers it. Shinsou, where are you guys? Are you and Deku okay? Izuku and I are fine. Where are you guys? They said there was a villain attack. We're still in the mall, but we're with the police, so we're fine now. Oh, okay, that's good. What? Hitoshi hangs up the phone without saying goodbye, feeling utterly drained. Think you kids could come to the station? I need to take your statements. Can you give us a lift? I saw she has the car. How in the world did their teacher get here so quickly without a car? Of course. Shinsou, you good to come? How does the detective know his name? His surprise must have shown in his face because the detective chuckles lightly before gesturing towards his teacher. Eraserhead told me you were with Izuku when he called. Hitoshi nods at the man and stands. He glances over to his friend and sees Aizawa pulling him up. Izuku is pale, tear tracks on his face, and unsteady on his feet. His teacher places a supporting hand on his back and follows Sekuichi out of the mall. Hitoshi, taking the rear. Okay, Shigaraki did not get, okay, woo, okay, 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 that was emotional. But, Aizawa absolutely booking it running and getting there as quick as he did without a fucking car. Wow. Talk about dad instincts, am I right? Like, talk about Mama Bird. Or, not Mama Bird, but Mama Bear. Okay, so, chapter 36 is of statements and silence. Summary. An awkward drive and a statement later, and they could finally go home to rest. So, Hitoshi has feelings for Izuku. It is developed in this chapter that Hitoshi has feelings for Izuku. I don't think Izuku... Not that he doesn't have feelings for Hitoshi, but I don't think if he does have feelings, he hasn't realized them yet because he has been so focused on other stuff. But I feel like once Izuku gets to just calm down, he will be able to focus on the fact on his personal life and, you know, realize, oh shit, I think I may have feelings for Hitoshi. You know, that happens to me from time to time, where I am so drained with other things that I am too preoccupied to even think about relationships that my feelings for people can drown. In the sense of like, okay, I like you and I like you a lot. It might even be love. But I am so emotionally drained and focusing on all this other stuff that I can't even focus on that to even acknowledge the fact that I like this person. Because I'm so busy with this other stuff, right? But the second I acknowledge it, it's like, oh, well, now I can't think of anything else but that thing and this dress. Great, wonderful. But if I start developing feelings during a stressful time, I don't realize the fact that I have feelings till after the stressful time is over, or a bit during the stressful time, depending on the situation. And if there's like a little lapse of just relaxation, it's just like, fucking shit, it hits me like a train. It really does, and it's annoying. It is fucking annoying. So maybe that's what's happening with Izuku. But obviously I think the next chapter is going to be a cooler chapter where they just take statements and then they go home and then we get to see some home time. I don't have anything to say. So, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.